former U.S. President Donald Trump now not backing down after pleading not guilty to 37 federal criminal charges related to the alleged mishandling of classified documents. Trump spoke from his Bedminster, New Jersey resort after being arrested and appearing in a Miami federal court earlier yesterday.
Threatening me with 400 years in prison for possessing my own presidential papers, which just about every other president has done, is one of the most outrageous and vicious legal theories ever put forward in an American court of law. And by the way, I will tell you, I'm here, and I love you all, and we can take it. But what these thugs have done to my family is a disgrace.
Trump is now the first former U.S. president to face federal charges. The indictment comes just months after Trump was charged by a Manhattan grand jury in an unrelated hush money case. And in true form, Trump not wasting any moment to further his 2024 presidential campaign, reportedly raising more than $2 million at an event mere hours after his court appearance. Here to talk more about what all this legal trouble means for Trump is Columbia University political science professor Donald Green. Professor, in his speech last night, Trump referred to the Presidential Records Act and said it's a right and the law that a president can take whatever documents he decides. Is there any truth to those statements?
Well, I think in some ways this is what the court case is all about. To what extent can a president have records at his home, have highly classified documents, show them to guests at his hotel? These are all kind of up for grabs. And I think one of the interesting things is whether Trump had declassified the documents officially, or whether he sort of does so in some sense informally whenever he takes documents.
And there is a difference between an actual president taking documents versus Trump no longer being the president and taking documents, correct?
Exactly. I think that this is going to be a really important part of the case. You know, when did he take the documents, and at what point, when he was notified about having taken the documents, did he indicate either that he had them and would return them, or that he didn't have them and, in some sense, didn't know about their whereabouts?
Now that Trump has pleaded not guilty, what comes next?
Really, the not guilty plea is a kind of formality in some sense in American criminal justice cases, because you're presumed to be innocent, and unless you want to stop the trial with a guilty plea, you would ordinarily plead not guilty, reserving the right to plead guilty later on if it's advantageous. But typically, the reason for a guilty plea is because there has been some kind of bargain struck in advance about clemency, but no such deal is apparent in this case.
Multiple sources say they expect Trump will be indicted at least once more. He's under investigation in Georgia for efforts to overturn the results of the 2020 presidential election. Will any of these legal cases have any impact on his ability to run for president?
I would say of the cases, the one about the documents is the most damaging potentially. Why? Because there's a constituency in the Republican camp that is quite adamant about national defense and takes umbrage at the idea of disclosing top secret documents, whether it be informally or done, sort of absentmindedly. They just don't like it. And although it's very early on in the campaign season, and early enough so that Trump might actually get a bit of a bump from his Republican stalwarts in the wake of what's seen as a kind of witch hunt, as testimony is laid out for the public about the documents, it will have a corrosive effect on Trump's ability to win easily in the primary. So I think that this is the one that's potentially most damaging. It's also the one that involves the fewest legal nuances. One of the things that's quite interesting about electoral politics in the United States is that since the new system was put in place in the 1970s, almost every election has had some unexpected twist or turn where frontrunners run ahead for months and months and months in the polls, and then they get to their first few primaries and tank, or sometimes recover, but sometimes not. So it's quite interesting to see whether this upcoming election will be a case in point.
Thanks so much for joining us, Professor Green.
Thanks for having me.